Our pal is Jesse Rogers, covers all things Chicago, and he says hello. I'm very surprised. And, you know, they lost to teams that I thought they are better than. It's not like they played the Braves and Dodgers here. I mean, they have played the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, and they, you know, the Diamondbacks at home, they lost 3 out of 4. And then just to go to Colorado, they do nothing. And then they don't win games in Arizona. Very puzzling with the Cubbies, who had played so well. Let me get your thoughts on that first. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, I know you come to me for answers. And in this case, I don't have a great one for you. This past weekend really surprised me. The Cubs had the rest advantage. They were off on Thursday in Arizona already, while the Diamondbacks were playing that day in New York. Had to fly 3 time zones to play this weekend series. The Cubs had their top 3 starters going while missing Gallen and Merrill Kelly from the Diamondbacks. It's set up perfectly for them, and they go in there and they get swept. Now, if you wanted to drill down offensively, they have slumped over the last 10 days, averaging about 3 runs a game. And if there's any case to be made for Cody Bellinger's most valuable player, it's this one. Whenever he slumps, this team slumps. Over these last 10 games, he's hitting 205 with like a 300 slugging. Remember, in May, this team slumped offensively when he was out with an injury. So really, as he goes, the team goes. There's been some social media criticism on maybe Ross playing his veterans too much. But look, Dansby Swanson's going to play every day. Nico Horner, Bellinger, they're going to play every day. So, yeah, maybe there's a moment to rest a guy, play a young guy here or there. But it really has been offensively. And last thing, I think the Cubs saw this coming a little bit last week. They changed up their batting order kind of late in the season to do that. They moved Ian Happ out of the 3 spot, moved him down, then to leadoff. It's not the perfect time to be searching for answers, Mad Dog. So offensively, this team has slumped, and I'm not sure they have some answers. Yet the schedule is favorable this week, Pittsburgh and Colorado at home.
Not favorable next week, because at Atlanta and at Milwaukee to close the year, that is dangerous. Now, I know both would have clinched, but, you know, they're going to want to also be a little revved up. The Braves are going to have weeks off, so they're going to treat those games as relatively significant. And Milwaukee, it's a rivalry, so a lot of Cub fans in the building. So from that standpoint, if I was a Cubby, I'd want to make sure I start next week where I'm in good shape in the postseason and not playing for my lives against those 2 teams on the road. How about that for a sec? Let me hear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now you've got to win 4 to 5 games this week out of the 6 against Pittsburgh and Colorado. I mean, Colorado's a different team on the road. Look what they just did to San Francisco at home. So if you don't win that series, you're in big trouble. You got to beat the Pittsburgh Pirates. Cubs are something like 9-1 against the Pirates this year. So, yes, 4 to 5 to 6 wins. Maybe you sweep the week to really put you back up into good shape. But here's the other thing, maybe, Mad Dog, maybe a bit of a course correction. I mean, they were nip and tuck with the Phillies a week ago. Are the Cubs and the Phillies on the same status in terms of the NL? No, they're closer to the Marlins. They're closer to the Diamondbacks. So maybe this was a bit of a course correction, and they're just going to have to grind it out to make the playoffs. But, yeah, this was a stunning weekend just to go back to these last 3 games.
And remember, they don't have a tiebreaker against 2 of these teams, Cincinnati and Miami. And the Reds got an easier schedule. They played Cleveland, who I know Francona's last game, so they'll be into it. But they play the Cardinals. They got the Pirates, too. And that tiebreaker thing could hurt them a little bit. They got tiebreaker over the Giants, but they might be out anyway. So that's another issue from a Chicago perspective. Jesse, your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Well, yeah. And look, their whole season series against the Diamondbacks came in the last 10 days. So winning the tiebreaker was right there in front of them. What did they do? They went 1-6 against Arizona. They didn't even make it close. So it's one thing to lose a series in May to whoever to lose the tiebreaker, but this is September, and you go 1-6 against your closest wild card opponent. Really devastating stuff. The Reds early this season came into Wrigley Field and swept them. That's going to come back to haunt them if they tie. So yes, they have to have a strong finish here. Last 12 games, a huge homestand, and then you're right about the Brewers and Braves. Dangerous, but maybe setting up the rotation. I don't expect Milwaukee to be pitching Woodruff and Burns 6, 7, 8 innings if they've clinched the division. But I do expect those teams to play their position players because there's no reason not to keep them sharp for the postseason. It's going to be a tough stretch. That's why they got to get the wins at home.
100%. Now, Milwaukee, they're playing Tuesday in the wild card round, so they might take it easy, give them a little break that weekend. Because that's the last weekend, right? Milwaukee, not Atlanta, because Atlanta's they're gonna have a week off. So Atlanta's got to play everybody, and last year they got killed with the week off because they lost to the Phillies. They didn't play for 6 days. So I think Atlanta will treat that as sort of a pre-playoff preview and play hard. I don't think Milwaukee will. So you're 100% right on that. What's going on with Stroman? Will he Will he start a game? They could use him, or is he simply going to be out of the bullpen here down the stretch? What can you tell me there? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if he starts a game, it's going to be in a piggyback situation. He is not stretched out enough. He didn't even go on a rehab stint. So if they start him, it's going to be like him and Javier Assad back to back, something like that, 3-4 innings. He's just not ready to pitch 6-7. But for the meantime, I think he's going to be in the bullpen. There's been a couple cracks in that rotation. Assad hasn't had the best couple starts last 2 times out. So it's a little undetermined, Mad Dog. I think they have to see how things go here. So yeah, I don't see Stroman being a big part of the starting rotation down the stretch simply because he's not ready. One more thing on Atlanta, you mentioned, they just got a wake-up call in Miami. Like, they clinched a bunch of things and then they took it easy and they got pounded. I think that's going to wake them up for these final 2 weeks. So I'm agreeing with you there. They're going to sharpen it up here in the final couple weeks, and that can impact the Cubs.
I don't like that series at all for the Cubs. The Braves beat everybody. That's a bad series for them. Milwaukee last weekend is different. You know, I am stunned I'm saying this. If you told me 10 days ago, I thought the Cubs might get home field. And now there is a chance they may, and that will be a bitter pill. They did not make any trades at the deadline, getting rid of Bellinger to get some prospects. They were in great shape. They had a lot of juice at Wrigley Field. There was good karma there. There's pressure on the Cubs now. There's no pressure on Miami. There's no pressure to a certain degree on Arizona. I know Arizona's been flirting all year, but they're the Diamondbacks. They're building for the future. The Reds, there's certainly no pressure on them. There is pressure on the Cubs. They have to make the playoffs after the stretch they've had and the fact they made no moves as far as trading, guys like Bellinger, and it's a big market. Cubs got to get in. There's pressure on them these last 2 weeks there, Jess. Let me hear your thoughts there as we say goodbye. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think context matters. If they were grinding and reached the second or third wild card in this moment, we'd be applauding them. But the fact of the matter is, like you said a week ago, 10 days, they had the second spot secured and were battling for the first spot and now have gone backwards. So that context puts the pressure on them, puts the pressure on David Ross to push all the right buttons. They're built to play close games, and the manager's going to be putting the spotlight down the stretch. So will those veteran players like Bellinger, Swanson, Happ. It'll be interesting to see. I think they're going to be okay because of this homestand coming up.
All right, good job, Jesse. We lost him there for a sec. We got the basic feel, close games, and let's see how Ross handles it. Lots of moves to make. Jess, great job. Thanks very much. We'll keep in touch. Appreciate you coming on.
You got it, Mad Dog. Take care.